Fort Solace. Goddamn, this game sucks. Besides the nice visuals, I really cannot think of any redeeming qualities of this game. The pace is super slow, there's no payoff. It's actually all build up and slow build up. All you fucking do is walk around at 2 miles an hour with zero gameplay, just picking up audio logs and notes that all vaguely describe what happened at this facility that you're exploring. I've definitely seen this shit in movies where it takes subtlety to the extreme and jack shit happens, but I've never seen this in a video game. I love story-driven games, but they can't even give you the baseline gameplay to make fucking story decisions. It is so boring and pointless. I hated this game. Nobody should ever touch this garbage. Next in the Garbo category is Grey Hill Incident. It's a much less offensive dogshit title because at least it wasn't made by industry veterans. It was more so made by a small team with a vision and just really poor execution. The atmosphere is solid here, but it was buggy, had atrocious combat, and had really poorly communicated objectives, and just an overall lack of spooks. It was kind of funny at times with some of the goofy gameplay, but yeah, I'm never coming back to this bitch. So in my meh category, I got Hogwarts Legacy. I really don't know how this game got such raving reviews. This is the most Ubisoft, non-Ubisoft developed game I have ever played. It's got a vast, beautiful world, interesting gameplay, but objectives and story are ultimately really poorly realized, uncreative, and feel incredibly padded. Flying around on a broomstick was awesome, and casting spells at first was a blast, but after an hour, the world lacked the depth that Rockstar games have, and the story, the missions, and the characters felt so creatively bankrupt I could not finish the game. Next in my mad category, I got Atomic Heart. It's a weird fucking game. I goddamn could not stand the spongy enemies and the hasty amateurish writing of this game, alongside the endlessly spawning enemies. It felt like it wanted to be Bioshock, but it lacked the maturity and suave level design of that game series. It had some stellar, interesting premise at the start, but it fell into repetitive enemy grind not soon after. It has such potential visually and story-wise, but like Hogwarts, I made it about halfway or so, and I just could not pull myself to finish it. Planet of Lana. It's by no means a bad game. In fact, it's considered by some probably a good game. However, after playing similar games like Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, Inside, Little Nightmares, and of this year, Bramble the Mountain King, it feels like a half-baked, boring-ass knockoff of those games. Visually, it's stunning through the hand-painted art backgrounds, but the lame puzzles, underwhelming story, and story length, which is short, all led me to refund it. Next is Ad Infinitum. This is a game that bothered me that I didn't like it as much as I wanted to. It was a passion project cooking in the oven for several years that took inspiration from some of my favorite games like Amnesia and Outlast. Unfortunately, time, inspiration, and passion doesn't equate to talent. Rough voice acting, lack of scares, janky gameplay, dated engine, underwhelming puzzles all contribute this to being a sad title. It does have some really solid monster and environment designs, but this is far from a legitimate saving grace. Sorry, Ad Infinitum, kinda mid. The Invincible. I was really vibing with this game at first. Beautiful graphics, actual story decisions, and more gameplay than expected had me enthralled. Then the motion sickness from the redundant camera movement animation from every stone I stepped on came in. Then the dialogue just kept going and going and going. And then the environment stayed the same and got old. Then I stopped playing because it was mid. Alright, my next category is not for me. So this category, these games, I don't think they're bad games. I think they're just not for me. They're not for what type of games that I personally like to play. What would be my contenders for my favorite games of the year. So here are they. I got Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. Damn, I can't talk. I want to say I love the environment in this game, but I just can't with the dialogue. Every time you talk, you stand still and exchange words for like 8 minutes at a time. I kind of miss like God of War, where you smash people with trees as you exchange clever insults. I mean, I don't want to hear about how the data pass systematically unlocks all doors at once a microchip I got from Raj last week. Like, shut the fuck up. Just let me walk and do my shit. I have to say, the gameplay is super refined. Parkour is also a nice addition, and that identity switch mission was sick. But the rest of the 10-hour campaign just wasn't interesting enough or up my alley enough for me to care about. The new Star Wars Jedi game. I honestly can't remember what it was called. I think it was Jedi Survivor, right? So this game also got really good reviews, similar to Hogwarts Legacy, and I think Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. They all got great reviews, right? But I just don't care, because I didn't like it. Sure, combat and visuals are sick, but the story was overlong and lacked the excellent pace that first Star Wars Jedi game came out. The one from like 2019 or so. The story was less prevalent, and when it was there, it was just in cutscenes that should have been playable. I just altogether didn't care enough about the Star Wars lore and series to find true enjoyment in this game. It was just a bit underwhelming for me. Alright, similar to Ad Infinitum, this one hurt. Amnesia the Bunker. This game got spectacular reviews, but I just did not vibe with it. The lack of story, difficult gameplay, unclear objectives all left me not really wanting to play more. I think the biggest thing was a lack of breathing moments that turned me off from this game. Frictional Games had previously stated in prior games that they place importance on safe hub areas. You know, where you explore, maybe solve a puzzle, and let your heart rate decline before your next nerve-wracking enemy encounter. The hub areas were a perfect contrast to the terror the game offered, and that stark comparison made the horrors you encountered that much more frightening. In this game, I just felt I was in constant tension, and it was honestly just stressful and not fun. Sorry for having an unpopular opinion, but yeah, I just did not like this. Alright, top 10 games. Number 10, My Friendly Neighborhood. Enough with the negativity, onto the positives. Well, not really, because I still didn't like how minimal the story was here. The fact there's only 2 bosses, and that the game is only like 5 hours long. But, now that that's said and done, I really enjoyed this game. Characters and setting were super interesting, level design and gameplay were well thought out, and it was a really good family-friendly interpretation of a Resident Evil game. If you got a 12-year-old son or daughter who wants to play Resident Evil desperately, just let them get their hands on this bad boy first to give them something more age-appropriate. Number 9, Anemiapolis. This is definitely a niche game. Like ultra niche. Like 99% of people probably wonder how the fuck this is a game and how people can enjoy this. However, if you're the 1% of people obsessed with liminal spaces and don't mind playing a game the majority of society would delegate as boring, it is by far my favorite relaxing liminal game I've ever touched. It does have a little bit of gameplay and some tension, but I can't really have it up higher on my list because I feel it's almost offensive to call this game a game. Alright, number 8, Outlast Trials. This is just Outlast plus friends, so sign me the fuck up. Starting with positives, gameplay wise, this is incredibly well executed with a strikingly good balance between 1 to 4 players, always offering an appropriate difficulty depending on how many players are in it. The environments are also incredibly interesting, and they really were what kept me engaged, other than laughing at my friend Jordan getting killed every 10 seconds. Now that I explained why I liked it, there are a handful of things I did not like. The gameplay loop does get repetitive. Similar to Amnesia the Bunker, there's actually no breathing time in this game, and once you die, you lose your hour or so progress until you have reached the end of the level. It's actually insane. It's incredibly stressful, and it's honestly not enjoyable certain days, but the memories I've gained from this game propelled it onto my list. Number 7, Super Mario Wonder. I barely played this game, but so far it is best described as Mario on LSD. It is wild and I absolutely love it. Of course, I play it with my girlfriend, so it's infinitely more fun than solo. It essentially takes the default Mario gameplay and cracks it out with endless creative ideas, offering the most original and inventive Mario 2D platformer I have ever played. Number 6, Dead Space. This is technically a game released in 2008, but it has been totally remade. Altered level design, new cutscenes and voice actors, additional side missions, environments to explore, and updated gameplay all turn this 2008 classic into a superb modern horror shooter. I think this additional content assists the pacing and prolongs the game into being the undeniable superior iteration of this title. Number 5, Bramble the Mountain King. Clearly taking inspiration from Little Nightmares and Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, this game solidifies itself as a worthy competitor to those titles and places itself on the shelf alongside them. At times it may be a little all too similar to them, but considering they are some of my favorite games and the fact that this game was obviously backed by creativity, polish, and passion, I loved it. The soundtrack was amazing, the variety of enemies and areas you explore is vast, and the game length is very appropriate. Highly recommended. Number 4, Lethal Company. This game is basically SCP on crack. I just love the amount of randomization and the unknown nature of playing this multiplayer game. You really have to figure everything out yourself, and even after hours of playing, you never really know what the hell type of creature could be around the corner. I wish I had an estimate for how many aliens there are in this game, but I genuinely have no idea because I've encountered at least a dozen, and I know there are dozens more. Number 3, Killer Frequency. This is such an inventive title. It revolves around being a radio host who is forced into a situation of role-playing as a 911 operator to assist people surviving a serial killer. Every phone call places you in a different situation, and you slowly explore the radio station more and more due to the context of the phone calls in clever ways as you start to piece together who the killer is and what their intentions are over time. However, this game is very dialogue heavy, but if you can put that aside, this is one of the most interesting and engaging games of the year. Number 2, Alan Wake 2. It's a game I absolutely loved and was disappointed by simultaneously. The technical nature of this game and the Sega's campaign were superb, but similar to the first Alan Wake game, Alan is an annoying character who just drags drab monologues to your ears every 10 seconds. His levels were also much less interesting to explore, and the fucking ending is a major cop-out. While the game is lengthy, the game just ends abruptly with a DLC promise. Assuming the DLC does it justice, I still really enjoyed this game. The atmosphere, gameplay, and weird character writing all had me hooked throughout it, and the game was nearly my number 1 game of the year if it wasn't for the disappointments that came alongside it. Number 1. Now this game does not stack up to last year's God of War Ragnarok, but it is the most well-rounded, solid game of this year. Far improved side missions, lengthy campaign, upgraded gameplay, and a story that did the first game justice all joined forces in making this genuinely my favorite game of the year. No, it did not blow my mind, but this is how to make a AAA game that is riveting and makes everyone happy. That is my list for my games that I played this year. Please leave any comments about any of this stuff in the comments, and I'll read it and respond. Thanks for listening, guys.